Hello, so I was asked in one of my streams, what would I do in a prepping or bug out situation? I've talked about this quite a while ago, so I thought I'd do an updated video and sort of clue you in on what my sort of things are. So, unfortunately in the area I live, there's not really any great bug out locations, and I mean that in the sense that there's nowhere I could really go that would be remote enough or have resources that you'd need, sort of in, some sort of survival situation. That you'd be self-sustainable and everything else, or nobody would find you there. So I think in terms of actually bugging out in that regard, that wouldn't really happen. There's some places that short-term might be good, but not, really long-term. So obviously bear in mind with that. So as a result of that, I've not got any particularly long sort of prepping stuff. There's at least 1 or 2 weeks worth of water and more of that of food stored here, but I won't go into all the details of that. But as I've said to people before, I normally prep for short-term kind of stuff, because there's lots and lots of things that could happen which would definitely affect people short-term, whether or not it be sort of some sort of food supply problem to the shops, dodgy water in your drinking area, something like that, dodgy tap water in that sense, all lots of things like that. So there's lots of short-term things I could think of that could go wrong where you might need some sort of emergency supplies. But I personally think if the situation arose where it was so bad that you need more than a few weeks worth of water and food, your survival chances are going to be pretty low, especially in a country like the UK or England where there's a very high population density. Now of course if you lived in the States or another country with lots of rural areas, and especially if you lived in a more rural area, you might be alright. Now another thing I like to bring up that a lot of people don't seem to think about when they start talking about prepping stuff is what sort of disaster might you encounter. And that would have lots of different effects on what you actually need to have supplies for and prep for. For example, if your area flooded, that would be very different than if there was a viral outbreak, and that would be very different than if there was looting and sort of rioting, that kind of stuff. There's lots and lots of factors I think when it comes into prepping that people need to consider, because lots of people just seem to think, well, I'll get a bit of food and water and then that'll be it. Or, I'll have a weapon to defend myself, some food and water, and that'll be it. And I think they're the basics, they're really good, but if you had some situations, you could be, still rendered totally helpless, even if you'd got some basic sort of prepping supplies like that. So in that regard, I think that, you need to really think your situation through, which is why I've said I've only got some very basic stuff in regards to short-term survival, because obviously, depending on what the situation is, and you can't plan for all of them. You can plan from most likely to least likely in a sense, but you can't really plan for absolutely everything and then stockpile absolutely everything in an average sized house, especially when you've got to live in it at the same time. So there's that. Another thing I think is worth considering, and it's something I'm definitely going to set up, would be, I don't know if you'd really call it a bug out bag, but sort of more of a survival bag. I might call it almost like a homeless bag. So a bag that you could grab that would have short-term food and water in it, and lots of really useful supplies in it, in case for whatever reason you were made homeless. So you could grab the bag, but you couldn't stay in your house, whether or not you, for whatever reason, got kicked out of your house, or something happened that damaged the house, it was structurally unsound to be in the house. Something happened in your area which means it's totally not safe to stay in the house. Then obviously I think a short-term sort of bag like that would help you if you were sleeping rough for a while, that would be, I think, more important. So at the moment I'm currently looking into to see if I can find some good sized rucksacks with good shoulder supports and things like that, that ideally need to be waterproof, preferably camouflaged, or like olive drab green or sort of a coyote brown. So if you need to leave it somewhere, you can try and sort of hide it, and it will reduce the chance of some random person finding it and stealing your bag. So hopefully that clears a few things up for people who ask about me, because no, I don't have anywhere really rural to retreat to, so I can't, plan anything like that really, even though I've got a car. In a lot of these sort of apocalyptic scenarios people think of, a car's not going to do you much good if the road's barricaded or filled with cars, or there's flooding and you can't get your car through somewhere like that. The area I'm in is quite prone to flooding actually, so recently, although it's clearing up now, we've had a bit of nicer weather. Lots of fields are flooding, lots of the rivers are close to bursting their banks near me, so flooding is going to be one of the more likely scenarios I'd actually face, I think, rather than other things like that. So and we get snowed in now and again as well, when the snow's particularly bad at times. So, as I was saying, I think for me, setting up sort of a rough sleeping bag, something like that, with lots of survival stuff in that would be useful, would be good. Weapon Collect's done a few videos like that on survival tins, so if you haven't seen his videos regarding survival tins and some of the bag setups he's got, that's definitely worth doing. But yeah, in terms of like when people ask me about prepping, that's basically what I'll say about it, because like I said, I never bother planning for too long ahead, simply because of the fact that you know, there's lots of factors you don't really know about, so you never know how it's going to turn out. And sorry that the hood keeps slipping down. I thought, because we were talking about bugging out and stuff like that, I put my Flecton raincoat on, because this is a very good camouflage coat and waterproof, or very water resistant regardless. If you need to hunker down somewhere, not be seen and be protected from the elements. So, very good raincoat for that. However, unfortunately the hood keeps slipping down for this video. Anyway, so hopefully that's cleared a few things up in regards to when people keep asking me, like, how do I plan for prepping and stuff like that. It really depends on what it is. And so for things like nuclear war, as I've said before, in a country like the UK you wouldn't survive a nuclear war, because so much of the country would be glassed, and then what isn't would be filled with radiation and obviously looting and stuff like that, that if you're in a big rural country you might stand more of a chance, but somewhere like the UK you wouldn't. As I said before, watch Threads, it's quite interesting about that sort of thing. But yeah, in regards to bugging out and prepping and everything like that, hopefully this video summed that all up.